I've been to the other side. I had a glimpse of it, and that's what I'm coming back to share. And I was giving a specific message to tell people not to be afraid of death, because when you're in fear, you're not going to truly live. And there's so much about this world that is so exciting to live in and to partake in, and that fear is going to keep you from doing it.
You are now listening to the highlight reel builder for authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, best-selling author, and Maxwell Leadership Certified Trainer, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some tips and techniques to advance yourself coming up next. Today's episode is sponsored by the Going North Podcast.com shop. Head over to that wonderful website to pick up some merchandise. We got shirts, hoodies, mugs, t-shirts, flags, notebooks, journals, just about almost everything under the sun, even stickers and buttons indeed for your lanyards and for your decorations as well. And we got multiple designs, advance others to advance yourself. We got the GoingNorthPodcast.com logo as well as outread your competition to outlead your competition. And we even got bags too, so check out the wonderful podcast merch shop and be on the lookout for sales. They got wonderful 35% off sales spread out throughout every single month, so that way you can save even more money, so you can get more bang for your buck, so you can bang out your goals through the inspiration you're going to get today on this podcast. Check it out like a library book, my friends. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors, known as Going North podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today, my friends. That's right, indeed. Courtesy of podmatch.com, where podcast guests will get to meet with podcast hosts, and if they're cool, they're freaking in. And today's guest is cooler than 2 cucumbers. Well, so she's got a nutritional background. We'll give her 3 cucumbers. Yeah, she gets an extra cucumber on the coolness meter. Let me tell you a bit about her and the reason why. Because she is a national best-selling author, y'all. That's right, indeed. In the USAF, she sold a whole bunch of books, baby. That's right, indeed. And she's also an award-winning health expert. So my goodness, not only is she a health expert, she's won awards for it. So that means she is highly recognized indeed, as well as an eternality activist. Advocate. Oh man, I'm so tripping over my words today. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Hey, human swag all day. Eternality advocate. There we go.
Yeah.
As well as a disabled USA Air Force veteran. So let's give it up for Miss N.A.K. herself, the nice, angelic, and kind of Nicole Angelique Kerr. How you doing today, Nicole?
I am doing awesome. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. That's right, indeed. It must be that smile of yours that's got me tripping up on my words or something. Usually it's better.
Actually, it's a hard word, eternality, because it's not eternal, and we all know what that means, but it really is the quality or state of being eternal, having no end, world without end, amen, so to speak, your ceaselessness. And that's what I have become, is trying to tell people that you don't die. Your spirit, your soul is everlasting. It goes on. That breath that leaves you, that vapor that keeps your heart running, that keeps your lungs going, that you don't even think about, man, as soon as that leaves you, that soul goes up, the body starts decomposing, and that soul is what is eternal. So your true nature never dies. Isn't that cool?
That's cooler than 10 cucumbers. So my goodness, as with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 95 days long, and I probably only covered, 6 hours of it. So my filling is in on any cavities I may have missed about you, and now you got to where you are today since it's your first time on the podcast.
I worked at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and I have a degree in public health as well. And I really just want to say, regarding the COVID epidemic, they dropped the ball on a lot of things, but simple things like wearing a mask, social distancing, and washing your hands. That kept the flu down the past 2 years. Now that we've kind of gotten out of that, look at how much the flu has gone up. Okay. And there's simple things to do. And I don't know why it had to be such a political thing, but coming from an epidemiological point of view, I think, people need to start respecting and understanding that everything and everyone is connected, and what you're doing is affecting me. So this is about taking care of one another when we're asked to do these kind of things. And that is actually one of the 10 common themes from people who have had near-death experiences. And that's what my book talks about, are these 10 themes, is we're all connected. Okay, your energy is affecting me and vice versa. So that is an important concept that we in America have yet to truly get, is that we're all connected. Everything, animals, nature, Mother Earth, we're all connected. So CDC, I've worked in hospitals. I've been an oncology dietitian. I've been a wellness director. I've worked in government. I've worked in all sectors. So I say BTDT at the end of my credential list because I've been there, done that. And the one that I have, I think people respect. If you have been there and done it and come through it, then you're seen more as an expert instead of talking about theories about the way things are supposed to turn out or supposed to work. It's like, nah, that wasn't quite the way that it was taught to me, And I think that's what I really want to stress is I've been to the other side. I had a glimpse of it, and that's what I'm coming back to share. And I was giving a specific message to tell people not to be afraid of death, because when you're in fear, you're not going to truly live. And there's so much about this world that is so exciting to live in and to partake in. And that fear is going to keep you from doing it. And fear is also contagious. And we have a lot of fear going on in this country, in the world right now. And it's not serving us or our children or our animals.
Ah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed, because it's actually funny too. I still remember the early stages of the pandemic when it became global, when USA decided, let's close some stuff down, and then you got reports overseas of dolphins coming back from underwater. It's like, hey, the humans, they're hiding. Let's come out and play. About freaking time. They're gone. Like, yay. And then just seems like momentum just went down and folks went insane. And of course, you mentioned earlier, it became political for some god awful reason. I have no idea why, sadly. And folks just went insane with all the miscommunication, lack thereof. And yeah, it was just insane. And I guess with America still being a young nation, I mean, only what, 300, 400 years of history compared to the rest of the world with thousands and thousands of years of history with their Eastern thought, probably being a little bit more, I guess, mature about the topic of death is probably has a big effect on us, probably.
Yeah, if you almost every book that is written, death itself is cloaked in a veil of doom and gloom. And it has this cloud of depression and negativity around it throughout our culture and society. And my own experience, and hundreds of thousands of other people that have had near-death experience, is 100% different than that. For us, death is absolute beauty, light, and loving kindness on the other side. And that's what I want people to really know. You don't need to fear death. Dying is another topic of fearing, because you don't know, is it going to be painful? Is it going to be, when is it going to happen? Because the truth is, none of us, we never know when we're going to pass. I certainly didn't think I was going to pass at 19 years old. I'm sure today is the anniversary of the Sandy Hook massacre. I'm sure all those little first graders and teachers didn't think that they were going to go to school and be shot at and killed. So this is a topic that we need to be talking to our children about, and we need to be coming out, and we need to start framing it that, death is something good that happens, in terms of the actual death. You're going to a good place. You're going to a place where there is all this light and beauty and things like that. And you will connect with loved ones, and you won't be alone. And one of the biggies is you're not going to be judged. You know, a mistake that you think you made, it's not a mistake where you are. And if you're raised in a religion like I was, Southern Baptist and Lutheran, I got a double dose of it, man. You want to talk about, somebody asked me, what's the worst thing about growing up, you know, in the Bible Belt in Mississippi? And I said, church. I said, there was so much of it, man. I had to go to church Sunday morning, 3 hours there. Evening church, that's another 3 hours, because of course the Baptists do Bible drill. And then Wednesdays we had to go to girl ambassadors or whatever. And then, oh gosh, then comes the summer and it's revivals and you had to pack a pew. And I said, you know, the only good thing that came out of it was the Baptists dunk their people when it comes to baptism. And that's a pretty fun thing to watch. But other than that, we get to go out to eat afterwards. You just think about the food, you know, you got to endure it to get to the food. And I will say this about the Baptists. The Baptists are great marketers. They were the ones with the gymnasiums, and they had programs, you know, roller skating, softball tournaments. They had fun. They even had a minister of recreation. Now that gets people in, because they make it fun, instead of you go into the church service and then you got, you know, the preacher literally talking about hell, fire, brimstone, the wrath of God is going to come on you if you don't do these rules. And, you know, the rules just seem to get longer, because my father was like a representative of God. And so his rules became God's rules, and you just never were going to win.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Indeed.
So one of the best things that happened to me, now that I look back, was the crash. I was a cadet at the United States Air Force Academy. Okay. And you have to understand, when I was there, this goes back a while, the first class that graduated was 1980. Okay. And mine was 86. So women were admitted in 76. A lot of people did not want women to go to the service academies. They didn't think it was a good idea. And I got a lot of abuse. A lot of the women, most of the women did. And it's not only physical abuse or mental abuse, you know, yelling at you, especially as a freshman, but sexual abuse as well. And unfortunately, that is still going on in the military today, 40 years later. They have not been able to fix that pervasive problem, you know? So listen, I'm like Private Benjamin. In high school, I modeled, I did junior achievement. I did not think about the military. It was not something I wanted to do. The only reason I went there, Don, and a lot of your audience may relate to this, I'm a people pleaser. I mean, and then I became a God pleaser. Okay. So my dad wanted one of his 4 kids to go follow in his footsteps. And so I signed up and I said, I'm going to be daddy's girl. Then I'll get the love and attention that I so desperately want. And I was shocked when the representative called my school and asked to talk to me. And the principal got me out of class and he said, Nicole, I've chosen you to be admitted to the Air Force Academy. And I just sat there stunned, because I honestly didn't think I was going to get in. And now I'm like, oh shit, now I got to go. Now I got to go. Now I have to show up, you know? And it was bad, man. Let me tell you, I was always at the back of the pack running. Had to go to remedial training. You know, I did stuff I never believed my body could do. I really do. And it was like, on that hand, it was like amazing. But the other hand, it was just constant stress and fight, flight, or free. If you didn't do what you were told, man, you were going to get in even more trouble, if that's possible. So my sophomore year is when my crash happened. And I talk about that in the book. And it took me 13 years to write it. Okay. My heart, Don, is here. I'm honest. I'm vulnerable. I tell it like it is. And it was really hard to put this into, it helped me heal to write it. Okay. And I'm now doing an Audible, and I'm finding I'm having to go really a lot slower than I thought I was going to be able to, because each chapter I read, I still am getting triggered with, reading it out loud to myself going, wow, that really happened to me. It just is, it's a lot of trauma. If you've had trauma, and most of us have, it's a short chapter or two on understanding what trauma is, repressed memories. My memory of the crash, the only thing I remember was bright white lights. That was it when the crash happened. And I was with a senior cadet, and he was drunk, and I didn't know it. And we went to a squadron function, and we both never made it back to the academy that Sunday night. And so I was pronounced dead at the scene. We were in a Corvette convertible. It flipped. And then the EMT finally, when he got there 10 to 15 minutes after it happened, he did this thing called a sternal knuckle press, and my right pupil flickered and dilated. So he knew there was life in me. And what do we say about our eyes in terms of a spiritual phrase? What are our eyes?
Oh, the windows to the soul.
There you go. My soul popped in when he did that, and then he got me going. So when the accident happened, I flew out of the car, butt up through the windshield. Okay. I remember this 19 years later, coming out of Starbucks, going to the work at the Air Force Academy. All of a sudden, it just like, boom, it was so crystal clear. I had my leg on the dashboard, the other one crossed over. I was going to have some fun because I had not been having any fun. So I thought, I'll go with this guy back. He wanted to stop and have a beer. Yeah, I'm cool. But then the sexual piece got too much. And needless to say, from all those injuries, they couldn't get any kind of vital on me. The people that were bystanders that heard it ran out. So they covered me up. And so I was clinically dead 10, 15 minutes. I will tell you, when I got to the hospital, my blood pressure was 60/0. They didn't think I was going to make it at all. And that night, they just tried to stabilize me. Then I began a 4-month journey in the hospital, 7 weeks in ICU, sepsis, gangrene, amputation with my foot, my wrist, my pelvis cracked. And so it was just, it was bad. And then I really didn't want to be here, Dom. So I tried to leave 2 more times. One was an operation. It was an emergency operation, and I had a code blue, and they actually told my parents that I passed away to start making funeral arrangements. They called the time on it of death. And then all of a sudden my heart started beating again. So they came running back in to tell my mom they got me going again. And then the other time was my lungs filling up with fluid, and I couldn't breathe. And to this day, suffocation to me seems like the worst way to go, not being able to breathe. I cannot stand being in elevators that are real crowded, or like my husband dives, but I'll snorkel. I'll only stay on top of the water. I can just lift my head and go, okay, I got a breath. So I went through a lot, and I came out of it, and they said, the doctor had said, Nicole needs some mental health. She needs to see a therapist. And I think you do too, Ms. Kerr, and Mom said, nope, God and Jesus are a therapist, and we'll be fine. And I have to say, she wasn't right about that. I needed some help. Really, that was a huge trauma I went through, and God does not come down and counsel. Okay. And I couldn't find any evidence that God was there for me from the God that I was raised with. He was loving and kind, but he was also judgmental and punitive, and the wrath of God would come on you. So one of the biggest challenges I had was my parents blamed me for the wreck. You broke your dad's laws. You were drinking. You were with a guy that was, you smoked a cigarette, and you were with a guy, that was a senior, and he was drunk. And so ironically, in May of this year, my roommate at the Air Force Academy quit that December. I did not know she quit. I have not seen her in 38 years. I found her on Facebook. I got her and 2 other women that were in our squadron. I got us on a Facebook chat and Zoom. And the first thing she said to me was, Nicole, I'm so sorry. I said, what are you sorry about? She said, I caused your crash. I said, what? She said, you asked me for a ride back to the academy before, we even started the game. And I said, sure, I'll take you back. And then at the end, there was a cadet who was drunk. Of course, they'd been given beer out all day. And she said, I'm going to drive him back, but I really like him. And I really want to just be with him. So there's one guy left over there and he's got a car and you go with him. And I said, but he's been drinking. And she said, oh, they've all been drinking, Nicole. And I said, well, she goes, go have some fun. She said, I'll see you back at the academy. And she never did. And she didn't know this guy had an agenda and he wanted to go have more beer. It turns out he was an alcoholic. And turns out his dad had 3 stars on his shoulder in the Army. So rank has his privilege, and he was allowed to graduate from the academy as a senior. And it just was really unfortunate. He wound up in the hospital for a week with some injuries in his back, but he went on to play sports and to graduate and, never really took responsibility. So there's my roommate who has been feeling guilty and haunted by this for 38 years. And I never remembered it, Don. And when she told me that, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And I said, so see, I knew the guy was not, I knew it. But when I told my parents, you know what my dad says, and it's in the book, he said, well, you made a bad decision. You should have walked back to the academy. And I wanted to just say to him, F you. I've never said that word to my father. Haven't spoken to him since. Don't believe I ever will. He's a narcissist. He's got to be right. And it's very sad because my parents are religious addicts right now. So I'm not dealing with them. I'm dealing with God told me this or God says this, but they never own responsibility. But to tell me to walk back, which was 20 miles at 7:30 at night without a cell phone, Lord knows I probably would have been kidnapped and killed. Who knows? A bear may have eaten me. But that's the type of person he is. And unfortunately, he's never going to admit he was wrong, and that hurt me more than all the injuries combined because I lost the relationship with my parents. And I didn't know that until just a couple months ago. So I've been living with that for all these years. And so it's been a journey to get myself in alignment, to let go of the concept of God that I was raised with and understand that the God I saw on the other side was love, period, love. And this bright white light that I was in, I never wanted to leave it. It was like I was in this chrysalis or cocoon, and there are colors on the other side, Dom, that we don't even have in the Crayola. What is it, 64 Crayola? I don't know. I don't have kids. What are we at now? 100 colors in the Crayola box?
Oh, God. It probably is close to maybe 128 somehow, maybe.
Okay.
Good luck to those kids, you spoiled brats. 128 colors, 64 colors. You're freaking cool.
I just remember the cigarette size carton of them. Do you remember that? They're just like yeah. I think it had 12 in it. But
yep.
Anyhow, there are so many more colors on the other side. But what does the color white do? White absorbs all other colors. So when you're in white, you're in every color imaginable. And you're just being held in it. And you didn't make any mistakes. There's no fear. You're not you in terms of your identities. You don't have your body anymore. And, I did on the other side want to tell listeners that the other thing that happened was I heard a conversation. I don't know what language it was in, but I understood it. And it was saying that we here on earth need to ask for help from the angels, from the angelic realm, that they're not going to interfere in our lives because we have something called free will. Okay. We can choose. In my case, an angel came down and picked me up before I went splat. Okay. My soul left my body before I hit the ground. So I could look down and see me dead, but I didn't feel any of the pain or any of that. And I still haven't. That won't ever come back. And so one lesson is to know that we all have a guardian angel and we have to ask for help. And I know people laugh when people say, oh, I asked my angels for parking spaces, but sure enough, it shows up. It's even the smallest thing. So remember to ask for help from that side, whatever your situation is. The other thing is start developing a relationship with your soul. Many people don't know what their soul is. I grew up in the South and it was soul music. And all I knew is if you're bad, your soul's going to hell. And I just could never get that concept of flames and the devil down way in the earth, because what did you eat every day? Barbecue? I was just like, how did you take a shower down there? From a kid's perspective, it makes no sense, even from an adult perspective, that whole story to me just doesn't compute. And so what I know is there's nowhere God is not. God is everywhere. And God is not external. He's not this man in the sky that's keeping a list of you and checking it twice like Santa Claus or something like that. There's no judgment. There's no, we're more than our physical body and brain. And we need to realize that and start a conversation with our soul and our spirit and start developing that spirituality part of us and awaken to the being that we were born to be, not who others wanted us to be, because that's the path I was on. I was on the path to be what my dad wanted me to be, and it killed me. And my soul knew it. My soul knew that I wasn't designed for the military. I respect the military. I was in it. It's designed to protect and defend, but you're taught to kill. And it's like, whoa, so my book talks about so much of this. It talks about, it's more than the NDE. I go into really detail with the crash. I took medical notes. I took the police report. I got all of this information. I went back to Colorado Springs in 2008 and interviewed what I call my angels, lead physician, the surgeon. She was a maverick. She was the first female surgeon in Colorado Springs, first female medical student at Philadelphia, Jefferson Medical College. Okay, she was a maverick. The EMT was a former Navy SEAL, and he's so tough. He's like, nobody tells me what to do. I'm checking this victim myself. And he took that blanket off and went to work. And then the nurse that was with me for 4 months, she was OCD. So I needed that because she not only sent my milk carton on the tray, she opened it, put the straw in it, and brought it to my mouth. That kind of level of care. And so I interviewed them all and I dedicated a chapter to them because none of them had a patient come back 25 years later and thank them. And I just thought, here's another lesson in gratitude. And yes, it was their job to do that. But for them to see me the way I look now versus when I came in that night, it brought tears to all of them. And, that's like, well, that's, we did our job. And you're one of the cases where between God or creator, whoever came in and intervened and us, you're here today and you're here. And I'm here today to tell this particular message of letting go of these fears. And they're unconscious, a lot of them. You may think you're not fearful, but you really, when it gets close, you're in the hospital or an emergency happens and you're thinking, oh my gosh, you can't control your death. You can't control, like say, okay, I'm gonna, like when I was midair, I'm not gonna die. You can't think your way through it. It just happens. And we need to be prepared for it.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. So if
That's
even
pretty
though it was at
heavy.
night.
I know that's a heavy topic, but we really need to get more comfortable around it. We really do.
Do you feel that your faith still played a major part in what you saw, I guess, in the afterlife per se, since you have the Bible Belt background and you still, and it sounds like you still have faith, it's just that it may be at a different level than it was some odd years ago.
Absolutely. It's a different concept of God. And that's what everybody has to figure out on their own. You have to figure out what an experiential relationship with the God of your understanding is. And from my experience, the way I was raised, there is no personality, form of God. God is energy in that sense. And it is everywhere, and it never was born and never dies. It's, you know, it's just beautiful. I can't even find the words to really describe it appropriately, but it's having faith that there's a whole realm just beyond this veil of angels and guides and deceased loved ones and ascended masters that are all there working on our behalf and trying to help raise the vibration of planet Earth and ourselves, because we are not going in the right direction right now. We need to change course and start learning that loving ourselves is, first of all, the most important thing that you can do, because when you can love yourself, then you can love others. And I'm not talking about loving myself like going to get a manicure or pedicure. I'm talking about when the word should comes into my head, like I should have done this or should have done that. Every time you say should, you shame yourself. You like slap yourself. I should have done that. How stupid was I to do that? So start listening to how you talk to yourself and get that word out of your vocabulary. And the other word I would like to suggest you get out of your vocabulary is try. You either commit to something or you don't. Try is 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out of the door. You're waiting for something better to happen.
There we go. Something better and not butter, right?
Yeah, but when you think about it, it's true. It's like, either say no or say yes, and commit to it and learn to trust yourself. And I think so many of us have been told we can't trust ourselves. And especially when memories come up, like the memory of my crash, or women that or men that have sexual abuse, and the memory comes up 20, 30 years later. That's because your body is finally feeling safe enough for that memory to come up. Before, you couldn't have handled it. It probably would have sent you to the psych ward, to think that can happen, that type of trauma on such a level, to be traumatized by this holy person in a church, who was supposed to be a representative of God. That just screws with you on all levels.
Do you think you'll ever forgive your dad down the road?
I have forgiven him. I just don't need to talk to him anymore. I know his spirit is love and kindness, but he has been raised a certain way, and his belief systems are not changing. And that's what I am hoping people will do, is start looking at belief systems that you inherited or that you picked up along the way from church or your parents that no longer serve you and are actually sabotaging you from being who you are. So I wish him well. I have no ill will toward him. I just am not going to sit and listen to him criticize, judge, and condemn me anymore. I'm 58 years old, and it's time for me to let that go. And that's one of the hardest things I've ever done, Dom, is to go, okay, mom and dad, because they're still alive. They live in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Peace,
Okay.
peace be with you, and stay well. But I can't engage anymore. It's just been too traumatizing and too taxing. And, and they're religious addicts. They don't feel It's just amazing to me. You can't argue with them. You're never going to win. God's always going to have. God's always got the answer. They're going to use God to have the answer. So I bless them, wish them well. And I'm moving on to try to help people. I didn't write this book for my family. I wrote it to help others that are going through that kind of transformation and trying to figure out who God is in their life. Because one of the hardest things to do is try to have a relationship with an entity that doesn't seem to respond like most relationships. You're like, well, give me some clue that you heard me, or some evidence, that you're there. And I didn't ever feel like I got any evidence. So now I know why, because I was looking as God as a vending machine. If I just put in the right stuff, boom, I was going to get my reward. And that's not how, in my opinion, God works at all.
So it sounds like people that hurt you, you forgive them and move them to Australia. That's what it sounds like.
It started as a penal colony. All the English sent all their, rejects over there. So no, I love Australia. God bless the Aussies, but the distance does help. Not to have them down the street or something like that. But it's very hard when you've been raised that family is everything, and you can always count on us and all those words, but they're not backed up with action.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So, my goodness, so since you've been on a podcast tour promoting the good stuff that you're doing with the NDE work and beyond, with the positive message about it, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on these podcasts?
That's a really good question. I think is more about the concept of God and discussing what you really believe that to be. And I think that opens up a whole world. And my book actually has a checklist on fears. If you can see that, for people to say, okay, I worry about all the things I'm going to miss after I die. I don't want to leave my family alone. I fear the physical pain of dying. And then there's a whole discussion. If you have a book club, I think this would be an amazing book for a book club. And you want to talk about intimacy and getting to know each other on such a level, is to know each other's fears and talk about it and become aware of it. And realize, okay, maybe you're not alone with that fear, and to help each other with this so that we can start this dialogue to start changing the narrative around death and not send our old folks away to nursing homes. And then, you only go see them, on Sunday afternoon or whatever. And then, their death. And that's all starting to change. I think our generation doesn't want to be put away in these, nursing homes. So we've got assisted living right now, but even still, that is, people want to try to stay at home and, pass away at home because that's what's familiar to them and comforting. So the question I would like is how we can start changing the narrative and start coming up with ideas, and starting with children.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Well, sure, since you got this fabulous book, and I'm looking forward to hearing the full version on audio, especially since you're reading it. That's right, indeed. So if your wonderful book, You Are Deathless, there we go, lisp again. Let's try this again. So if your wonderful book, You Are Deathless, if that book were a food, what would it be and why?
If that book was a food, wow, I think it would be whatever your favorite dessert is. So mine would be a combination of chocolate and coffee, ice cream, cake, liqueur. I love those two combined. So whatever makes your mouth feel like it's, can I even say this, orgasmic?
You can say whatever the heck you want on here.
Okay. And you just go, wow, all your senses light up when you tasted that. That's what I would say this book is. because you will start awakening when you start asking yourself these questions. You can't stay ignorant about this. You need to become aware of it and realize it just happened to the coach of Mississippi State, 61 years old. That's young.
I love that you said that.
Yeah, it didn't wait till the whatever bowl game that they are in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. There you go, your favorite dessert, y'all. That's right indeed. All the chocolate. That's right indeed. All the chocolate. That's right indeed. That's
It's
right.
soothing. I guess that's what I want to say. Whatever is soothing to you to eat. And that certainly is soothing for me. And it's soothing to know that God is loved. I'm wrapped in his love. God is internal. I don't have to go, I love Jesus, but I don't have to go through Jesus to get to God. All of these things, these lessons that I've learned, but they have been flipped over. The belief systems have been flipped over for me. And I love Jesus as a way shower. I think we can all learn the man was just pure kindness, and non-judgmental.
Oh, so no gavels.
No, no gavels. Which, yeah, I just think, being in a courtroom, even just sitting there witnessing something, that's stressful. This is a no stress situation, man. It's like eating your favorite dessert, no stress there. And you don't have to feel guilty afterwards for eating it.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. You don't have to feel guilty at all.
No.
Just let the calories come to you. It'll be
Yes.
fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry. Just imagine yourself
It
as
already
a
is. And, I think for people to know that they are going to see their loved ones again, that there's not a hell in the earth, there's hell on earth is the way I see it. And I just want us to start doing a better job respecting one another, respecting our animals and all sentient beings, and respect Mother Earth, because we are all energy, we're all created, we're all connected, and we've just we're very divided right now, and it's not serving any of us.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So wait, while we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive.
Oh my goodness, I'm nervous.
Oh, you'll be fine. So if you're to wake up tomorrow, you're 25 again, but you're still in the current year with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Quit being so hard on myself. I really did put a lot of pressure on me to perform, to be perfect, to be whose others wanted me to be. And yeah, love myself for who I was, scars and all, disorders and all. I suffer with PTSD. I had an eating disorder. I had so much shame about all of that. So yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So you heard that right, folks. Trade in that cinder block and trade it in for a pillow, y'all. That's right. Stop being hard on yourself, dadgummit. That's right. That's right, indeed. Get yourself one of them sleep number pillows and use it for yourself. Stop using the concrete. It's bad for you. Gives you CTE. That's right, indeed. All the concussions. Don't do it. Put the cinder block away. Pull out a pillow instead, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Because hey, we can be our own worst critics as we live with ourselves 24/7.
Yeah, that's right. And then if you believe what others are telling you, got to get away from those toxic people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You don't want your brain to be a factory of Soylent Green.
No, you do not. You don't think very clearly when that happens. Clarity goes out the window. And when you don't have clarity and you're trying to make a decision, it's probably not going to be in your best interest.
But I do know what's clearing and what's in folks' best interest for those listening right now is following you in your journey. So for those of you to do just that and cop some copies of your book, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Right now it's on sale on Amazon and Barnes & Noble for $9.99. it is a great gift to give to someone. And it's a great stocking stuffer, and it's less than $10. And so I'm like, you go to Starbucks and spend $10 on a venti frappuccino or something, and a bagel or something. And I think it will help you start thinking in a different way and to start transforming yourself, because now is the time to start awakening to who you are, not to who your parents wanted you to be or anybody else, to who your truth is. And I'm also, you can look me up at www.NicoleKerr, Kerr, all one word.com. I'll send you the first chapter for free. So you get an idea of the writing, and there's pictures in it too. Okay. I know people like pictures, so they're there as well. And it's on Kindle. And like I said, I'm doing the Audible, and it should be out middle, like March or so of next year. So that is coming. And I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, Nicole Angelique Kerr. You can find me there, and also on LinkedIn under Nicole Kerr Consulting. And that's all I can manage on the social media front, man. Between my PTSD and other stuff, I can't handle all those accounts, man. There's just too many. So, and I'm a solo person here doing the marketing and all of that. So it's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah. Hey, all you can do is all you can do. Besides, LinkedIn's probably your best option. Anyways, still, even once you get past all the evil marketers that try to sneak in your inbox to sell you something you don't want to need.
Yeah, it's true. And definitely email lists are going out the door.
Oh, well, make sure you keep that though. Keep that growing. That's the one thing you can still own. People still open it.
Okay. Well, that's good advice. Thank you, Mr. Dom.
Yeah, exactly. Because LinkedIn could flip on a dime, because they're looking like 2012, 2013 Facebook. God forbid they become 2020 Facebook and ban you for everything.
That's true. You never know.
That's right, indeed. So that right, folks. Go ahead and cop some copies of Nicole's books. They're freaking fabulous, and I love the fact that they're glossy too. So that means they're easier to hold indeed, and they're extra flossy and glossy indeed. I should give it to those who would need it, because it sounds like there's some good stuff in there, some inspirational stories indeed. And you might even need to bring some Kleenex boxes too. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So every book you buy, get 2 Kleenex boxes. That's right. That's right.
It's true. Right. It's I'm not gonna joke with your audience. It's a hard read. It's not easy to read about somebody else's challenges and this topic in general. But oh my goodness, I think you will find it. I was authentic, I was honest, and it's my truth. And it set me free, and I hope it'll start conversations with you and your family and your loved ones, and not put it off for tomorrow, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
Amen to that. So any parting words before we close up shop, Nicole?
I just really hope people will take this message of loving themselves first, and to not get caught up in the capitalism and consumerism of Christmas again. I think the pandemic gave us a little bit of a reprieve from that, but take the lessons, the positive lessons that you learned from that, and keep them, the habits, and really put yourself as a priority, because if you don't take care of yourself, nobody will.
Thanks a bunch for investing your time by listening to this wonderful podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review, or share this episode with at least 3 people that you think would get some value out of today's content. Advance others to advance yourself.